the middleweight finalists, Elisabeth Clay and Vannessa Griffin.
Elisabeth Clay will also be making her appearance in the absolute final later today against Veda Toscano.
Both of these women already have a Nogi Pans title to their name. Griffin won it back in 2020, while Clay took double gold last year. 2021, she scored 6 submissions in 6 matches to earn double gold. I believe this actually may be Elisabeth Clay's 3rd time in the Nogi Pans finals. I believe she also took gold in 2020.
Yeah, I'm not sure about 2020. I will say that we mentioned earlier she has been moving down a couple of weight classes now into this middleweight division lately and just looking so physically dominant. I think when she was up at the higher weight classes, it was a little bit, she of course did really well and was consistently winning, but she was competing against people that were so much taller than her, really different body types and different sizes, and she's able to use her physicality a lot more effectively, I believe, in the middleweight division. I think we're seeing that, right? She's not getting out muscled. She's not getting pushed around the way she might by heavier, bigger competitors. So it's really nice to see her in her weight class and in her element. She looks very, very effective all weekend in the absolute class, and the absolute as well.
You know, now that I look at it, Elisabeth Clay, of course, was not a 2020 black belt Nogi Pan champion. She hadn't had her black belt yet, but she's been competing at such a high level for so long that it's easy to forget that she's not very long into her black belt career.
Right, right. Well, I was going to say, did we even have a Nogi Pans in 2020? I don't think we did. The lost years. Yeah, Griffin has a really nice passing game. She's very, very effective in her pressure passing. Once she gets to a dominant position, it is not often we see her lose it. Very strong, heavy pressure, which is something you're going to have to be using effectively with an athlete like Liz Clay, who has such a flexible guard with good guard retention. We've seen Liz Clay's guard get passed, but first of all, it's not often, and second of all, when it does happen, she usually doesn't stay there for very long. She has very great guard recovery, known very well for her her innovative submissions. She uses gogo plot, as we saw her use a gogo plot earlier in this tournament, so she's not afraid of heavy pressure. I mean, we saw her have a big match with Gabby Garcia, I believe it was last year, maybe a year and a half ago. Didn't get her guard pass then, right? So she is typically playing on bottom, although I will say she's been talking a little bit about feeling more comfortable on her feet lately. We saw some of that in the match with Bia Mesquita, who's #1. And it's nice to see her open up her game, be a little more versatile, and be able to come up on top and pass and play from there as well.
The dangerous guard of Elisabeth Clay that we talk about does eventually here earn a penalty to Griffin. Griffin a little bit reluctant to come in too close to Clay's guard. Clay looking like she has some answers for Griffin, and Griffin tries to pass around the outside, but Clay will have none of that and gets back to the guard with plenty of space.
Now we see a little bit of that wrestling up threat from Liz Clay. Heavy hand on the collar tie, maybe looking to enter into an ankle pick or like a come up on the double leg. But staying in this seated guard now again. Now it's Vannessa who starts to put a little bit more pressure on the head. I think the successful passing we've seen against Liz before, which is not much, so it's easy to pinpoint when those times were, is when athletes can control her head and pull her head down kind of into a snap position, or if they're able to really do big throw-bys on the legs. But Vannessa doesn't seem to have attempted either of those options just yet, being very respectful of Liz Clay's guard, not really stepping in too much.
And Clay, patient here to just hold center mat and keep proving to the referee that it is Vannessa who should be the one to make the next move.
Yeah, I think Liz has done enough forward motion to warrant that, right? She's not being overly aggressive, but she is setting the pace, and she is the one that's reaching up a little bit for arm drags. If Vannessa steps in, she's going right into her legs, as we see here.
Really interesting setup. It looked, you know, maybe the elements were similar to a false read, but not exactly that position, right? Just everything was kind of in that place. We're going to reset standing, so Clay needs to pull guard again. She'll do just that. And she beats Griffin to the punch, so Griffin does not get the advantage for coming up.
Yeah, I think Vannessa's falling into a bit of a trap that we see with a lot of opponents that go against Liz Clay, is they respect the guard so much, but Liz does best with a patient, slow game where she is in control of the pace. She has a harder time with opponents who blitz at her and they run at her and they throw her legs to the side. I would say that that is definitely the approach to use with someone like Liz Clay. To give her space like this is giving her exactly what she needs to work. She feels totally at home here. We haven't seen her look frustrated or worried once, and very composed.
We've talked a lot this weekend about the different kinds of pressure, right? Not just physical pressure, but also mat space pressure, clock pressure, and that really is where Liz Clay seems to thrive. You're right, Kendall, is in clock pressure. She likes to, of course, control. Of course, you know, make her opponent feel how strong her control and her threats are. But where she really does that best is by gaining these small advantages and then making her opponent feel the pressure of the clock, the pressure of the scoreboard.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that it's not at all, because you can do that in a stally way, but it's not at all in a stally way because she is still always the person kind of setting the pace, and she is the aggressor, kind of daring you, like inviting you to play the game, right? We've seen her a bunch of times now reach up towards the head, go in for an arm drag, and now every time the leg gets close, also looking to go in on one of her inversions.
And we start to see Vannessa maybe open up a little bit, and that could be because she just received her second penalty, giving Liz a bit of a stronger lead right now, an advantage and 2 penalties against Griffin.
Yeah, Vannessa really needs to be careful about how many back steps she takes. She just took a couple more, and once the penalties start racking up here, the refs will not be hesitant to call more. Because even though she made a significant change for a moment in her approach, now that she's kind of going back to this backing up game, it's and it's not to say that she doesn't have great passing, but she needs to utilize it. She's got to pick it up because she does have incredible passing. Every exchange that she's had with Liz, when she starts to go into the guard, she starts to look great. It looks like she's going to be making some movement and some progression, but then as she backs out again, makes me a little bit nervous because the referee will not be hesitant to give another call.
And it's really just a compliment. It's a statement of how dangerous and how well respected Elisabeth's guard is. Because this is not the only match in which you see opponents reluctant to engage with her. It's, you know, one wrong step and your leg gets caught, and if you leave your shoulders too far forward, you end up in that gogoplata, omoplata situation. There's nothing about Elisabeth's guard that isn't scary to walk into. So it takes
her closed guard as well. Yeah,
right.
Very strong guard. But I think it's fair to say that it's better to risk going into that guard than to lose to these penalties, right? This is not a fun way to go. And with only 2 minutes left on the clock, you know, the best approach here would be to start to wear that guard down, right? Because if you wait too long and then you go for that pass, Liz is still fresh, right? You got to start to wear her down in order to have a hope there.
And the issue in that is earlier on in the match, before the scoreboard looked the way it did, Vannessa could have opted to take a risk. Now she has to take a risk.
Right. See when Vannessa engages, she does well, but now Liz on a beautiful wrestle up position into a Kimura though, so she needs to watch that right arm. But she does solidify the top position. If she can get that right arm free, she'll score 2 points here.
This Kimura, by the way, one of Vannessa's best weapons. She did use that to secure her Nogi Pans title in 2020. But Elisabeth Clay looking to settle down, maybe drop her weight, and when she gets free of this grip, she will score 2. And
she climbs up to a beautiful head and arm control straight into the mount. Wow. That was insane. really, really tight here, looking to finish the submission or maybe transition off to the back.
Liz Clay looking to send a message to the critics who say she doesn't play a top game, she doesn't wrestle up.
Look at that beautiful transition to the back as well. Yeah, so fun to see Liz wrestling up and dominating from the top position. I think is going to put a lot of her opponents on notice, right? Vannessa trying to peel the hands here to survive, maybe try to turn and come up to her knees. Liz is locked on there, though. It looks pretty tight here, and she
got
gets
the hip
tap.
pressure in there. With 30 seconds left on the clock, Elisabeth Clay, once again, a no-gi pan champion on that gold medal later on this afternoon. A rarely seen rear naked choke here from Liz Clay to collect a third no-gi pan title.